So one of the most rewarding, yet also sometimes one of the most frustrating and painful aspects of human experience are romantic and intimate relationships. So the title and what I'm going to talk about in this video is how to attract a soulmate. So again, as has been a major theme through many of my videos, in order for us to attract a soulmate, we're going to need to align with cosmic principles rather than forcing or stressing about it. So an easy way to see this is what I'm saying is if you're traveling down a river and the current's going this way, you can either go with that current. It's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to get to your destination maybe a lot faster, and it's probably going to be a lot more fun. You can just kind of sit back and relax. Or you can turn around and try to paddle upstream, and it's going to be really hard. It's going to be very stressful, and still the river's pushing you down anyway. So in a sense, it's kind of futile. So that's what I'm talking about here. That's a great image to really understand it. So in this context, it really comes down to relating to another person on the basis of your true self, who you are, rather than some sort of self-image. So what I mean by that is really on a bigger scale, this kind of equates to living in actual reality in here and now versus kind of the human-centered make-believe fairy tale Mickey Mouse McDonald's reality. So what that means is the human-centered reality kind of says this: you have to do X or be X in order for people to like you, or you have to have some sort of game or status or achievements. And really, that's what I'm meaning when I'm saying a self-image, meaning you might think in your head, well, I'm a nice person, or I'm spiritual, or I've got good game, or I'm flirtatious, or I'm very, I have good hair, or I have a good six pack, so people should like me. That's what I'm saying, and that's basically just setting yourself up for failure because that's really a false basis. So in reality, all we need to do is just be us. So what I'm going to do now is just take this a bit further and explain a lot of these ideas so we can really understand it and work with it. So really, as I was mentioning, cosmic principles or flowing with the stream, the first one is obviously the principle of attraction between complementary aspects, which is something that really holds reality together, and it's kind of like almost a law of physics in a lot of ways. And the second principle, which I like to call the cosmic friend principle. It's not really what it's called. I couldn't remember the actual title, so this is what it is. But it's basically just the idea and the notion that the cosmos or life or reality is a friend and not a foe, meaning it's on your side. And even Albert Einstein had a quote where he was saying the most important fundamental existential question that a person can ask is whether or not reality is a safe place or not. So really, we need to start off and just really understand and embody and align with these two principles. First up, attraction between complementary aspects. And the second, that the cosmos is really your friend. It's really on your side. So now let's look at some examples so how we can see this and understand this a little bit more clearly and experientially. So I'm sure we've all had experiences in times in our lives where we're kind of really on the hunt, or in a sense we're kind of putting off kind of a desperate vibe. Not that we're necessarily desperate, but in our mind we just have it made up that, oh, I really want to attract someone, or I really want to be with someone, or I want this, or I want that. And then we're kind of just focused on, oh, or we're seeking and we're on the hunt, essentially. We've all kind of been there. Yet we've also had times in our lives where we just kind of say, yeah, that'd be nice, but then we forget about it and we get busy with something else in our lives, and then what do you know? It pops up and it happens. So really this is kind of following along the lines of what I'm saying about aligning with certain principles versus using like stress and force and coercion. Again, which relates back to um, relating on the basis of your true self versus some sort of self-image. So in that example, each end of the spectrum kind of represented different ways and different polarities, which I'm talking about in this video. So let's understand it a little bit more deeply. So look at this example of, relating on the basis of your true self versus some sort of self-image, which what I'm going to identify here is really the basis of a lot of relationships. So on one hand, we have, kind of more aligning with what's true and what's real. And so we say, we go into a relationship or interaction, we say, hey, here I am, this is me. Maybe you and I are a fit, maybe not. Let's see, let's find out, and let's just be open and see what happens. Yet there's other approaches, which is a lot of relationships, which says, hey, look at me, I'm X, or I'm this, or I'm good at this, or I have this, or I have that, or I have this physical characteristic. Look how cool I am, and please like me, and please give me pleasure or sex or attention or energy or something. And that's really the basis of most like interactions. It's like, hey, look how awesome I am. Please give me this, or please like me. And if that's your basis for going into and relating to a relationship, how are we really surprised when that doesn't really work out? So again, we can look at that and from the basis of, instead of forcing through coercion or persuasion, we can basically understand that if we're taking these methods, sorry, I got kind of lost in my notes. So what we can see, what we can understand from those two examples is that if we're using the latter, which is, hey, look at me, we're using some sort of, force and stress, persuasion and coercion, which will either not work out first and foremost, or it'll work out, but it'll really just create resentment and hostility between the two parties. And the third aspect is it might work out, but it'll just fade and fizzle very quickly because it has a really weak and superficial foundation. So the first example, which I showed, which is, hey, here I am, maybe we're a fit, maybe not, let's find out, let's see. That's just that mindset creates kind of a relaxation response in your body because you're not having to force, you're not having to stress, you're not having to be anything or do anything or put on any sort of game or facade. So your body relaxes. Relaxation means comfort, which is really what all human beings want. We want to be comfortable. And that's inherently more attractive. Meaning if you're around someone, you say, wow, I just feel comfortable around them, it's awesome. You're going to want to be around them. You're going to want to interact with them, talk to them, spend time with them, etc. And it also really opens the door for interest and openness, both of which are, again, attractive qualities. Meaning even if you meet someone and if they're interested and they're interested in you and they're open and you feel comfortable, it's a pretty good start already. Secondly, or I'm sorry, the second example that I'm saying here, which is, hey, look at me, I'm this, I'm that, please give me this, please, like me, etc., which is kind of the self-image way of approaching it, is almost automatically creating tension and constriction in the body, nervousness and like anxiety and awkwardness, which is creating discomfort, which is inherently not attractive, inherently not what people really want. And since it's based on some sort of false self-image or facade, it's basically not having anything to do with genuine interest or openness, since it's based on these false premises. So it's inherently, again, unattractive and deeply kind of repelling for people. And that's, again, why these situations typically end, or they typically don't work at all, or they end in kind of resentment and hostility, or they just kind of fizzle out very quickly. Because we all kind of have a gut feeling about things, and eventually things just won't feel right, or just we won't want anything to do with it anymore, and it'll just fade away, which is very often, what happens in human relationships, either of those three things. So those are all the points that I wanted to make, and hopefully through all of the different examples and the ways that we looked at it, you're able to see kind of the bigger picture as far as the big kind of grandiose philosophical ideas, but then also kind of the nitty-gritty experiential. So again, just to recap and summarize, it really comes down to the things which I've identified at the beginning, relating on the basis of your true self, not some sort of self-image, and aligning with cosmic principles rather than trying to like force and stress a situation. So hopefully that's been helpful. The things in this video have definitely been helpful and transformative for me. So I'm completely confident that if you understand and apply them, they will do the same thing for you, and can even at this moment put you on a different path and change the things that you're attracting in your life and change the ways in which you're relating to other people. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.